Bases dropped on Soccer's morning show here on the SDH Network. John, hear you there. Thanks for dropping by. It's a Tuesday, so it's Tuesday thoughts on the table across the board. Rundown for the show is this. We're going to have opening kickoff coming up in just a little bit. And then Maddie caught up with Carolina Core head coach Roy Lassiter. Big game for Core and Atlanta United 2 coming up tomorrow night, and that'll be on the network. 7 o'clock pregame kickoff at 7:33, if my math is correct, across our network at SDH. And then on the Apple side of things, we'll check and see on the flip side of the interview if it's on MLSNextPro.com or if it is on Apple TV. When we get out of the Roy Lassiter interview, we'll go through MLS Next Pro as Atlanta United 2 is chasing after a playoff spot. The loss to Orlando City B on the weekend made it a little bit more difficult, but we'll get into what the twos have to do on the way in. We'll let you know what's going on in MLS Next Pro to get you ready for the matchup on the network at soccerdownhere.mixler.com tomorrow night. And so pregame show at 7, kickoff at 7:33, Atlanta United 2 at Carolina Core at Truist Point. We'll have Maddie's interview with Roy Lassiter coming up in just a little bit. After that, we'll go over what's going on in Major League Soccer. Tonight, it is the CanChamp semis. No word on if there are any drone activities after what we discussed yesterday with the interview from or the story from Joshua Clokey at The Athletic about the possibility that there's more drone issues involving individuals tied to Toronto FC. And then also the lowest survivor on the board in a U.S. Open Cup. They play tonight as well. Indy 11 going up against Sporting Kansas City. So we'll go over the matchups tonight. We'll go over the matchups tomorrow, kinda. We'll go over it more tomorrow as we look back at what happened tonight tomorrow. Does that make any sense? Then we'll go over the weekend in Major League Soccer and go over what happened there. A lot of stuff happened. Once again, we'll look at the playoff standings, the standings in each conference. We'll let you know where the playoffs currently stand as we get into Major League Soccer. We'll get into the news of the morning and everything else that's come across our bow here as we get you through a Tuesday. Once again, as always, your thoughts on the table. Doesn't matter what they are. We will discuss Tuesday Thoughts. That's why the hashtag is Tuesday Thoughts. Kind of like an early wall pass Wednesday. If anything slipped our minds and slipped through our fingers on Monday for Reaction Monday, that's what today is for. And then once again, as we get you ready for Wall Pass Wednesday, that's the thing. It's like if we forget anything on the day before, then we can do it the day after and we'll catch up. So by the time we get to Friday, we're all caught up and we lay everything out for you. So here's the traffic for the week as we get you ready for very, very busy times. Tomorrow, traditionally busy. Tyler Pilgrim from Scarves and Spikes. He'll drop by at 9:15. See if we can catch up with the busiest man in the Northeast, Dylan Butler at 10. Marion Crowder dropping by to discuss college soccer and the USL Super League at 10:30. So she'll be joining us then, and that'll get you through your Wednesday as well as getting you ready for Atlanta United 2 and Carolina Core again. Thursday, once again, hour number 1, traditionally wide open, where we catch up with everything that's happened in the midweek. Then the Power Hour on Thursdays, where we catch up with our buddy from Gold TV, where we go fully loaded with Nino Torres, and then followed by Nico Moreno at 10:30. Nico, interesting story from Nico. Nico last week fell victim to all of the road construction and airport construction going on at SeaTac. And that's why he had to catch folks at the airport at a very early hour, fell victim to all the construction, and that's why he was sorely missed last week. Then on Friday, obviously, we can whip around patent pending trademark coming sooner, hopefully rather than later. And we'll get you ready for the weekend across the board in all the divisions. Atlanta United getting ready for their big matchup against Charlotte. And we'll see how many different angles we can give you with that. So we'll get you ready for Atlanta and Charlotte. The big matchup up I-85 coming up on the weekend, and we'll get you ready for all of that as well. So that is the weekend, or that is the week as it is all laid out. Of course, obviously, it is always subject to change and shifting as the world rotates as we go. All right, opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. That's your QR code for those of you who are hanging out on Twitch, on the YouTubes, or on the 280-character app. Use that QR code. By the way, thank you, Abby. And morning, Abby, and morning, Alex. So use that QR code. You click into Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15 at checkout. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into youth games, youth initiatives, stuff that they have earmarked as cool, like our buddy Carlito says, at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. And I'm going to try and confuse our QR code clickers right there at the moment. All right, so now that I've done that, once again, also brought to us by our friends at Alliance Nurse Corps, over 30 years of experience in helping folks find their futures in the nursing profession. If you're looking for it in the first time, or if you're looking for a change within the nursing profession, catch up with our friends at Alliance Nurse Corps. We mentioned QR codes. Hit that QR code, once again, for those of you who are watching on the video side of things. And then when they ask, how'd you hear about us? It's easy. You sit there and you go, SDH, man. SDH, yo. And that's how you get to help out our friends at Alliance Nurse Corps with all of the great work that they do, great friends with us here at the SDH Network. I know at times we kind of discuss the financial settings of a lot of the super teams and the superpowers that are involved in the world game. And we do have a piece of news, and Will, we will discuss that as well. Will's mentioning the Oasis reunion. We have to get into that too. We always talk about the super teams and their issues, and we sit there and we scratch our heads collectively and sit there and go, bruh, as you finally try and accomplish something. And we've gone over the issues that Barcelona has when it comes to not necessarily signing players, but paying for them and making sure that you fit under financial fair play and all these different kinds of things, and try to figure out, okay, how are we going to function on a daily basis when we are like $3 billion in the hole? You know, you sign away you sign away all your rights. You sign away, you sell your video arm. You sign the front of your jersey away to Spotify. And so Spotify also gets the naming rights to the stadium and the 3 stripes across the jersey for Barca. Barca, by the way, and this is opening kickoff, Barca has actually got something figured out in the short term. They were finally able to register Dani Olmo, expected to make his debut later against Rayo Vallecano. All the stuff we've talked about with Barca, Dani Olmo was brought in, but because they couldn't make ends meet and couldn't meet their financial fair play, profit and sustainability, whatever you want to call it, they couldn't meet their salary ins and outs. They couldn't register him. It's like, we've signed him, we brought him in, but we can't register him with the league yet because, well, we still have financial work to do. Missed the first 2 La Liga matches after joining from Leipzig because of La Liga's rules when it comes to player registrations. But then when Ilkay Gundogan, who goes away on a free, goes back to Manchester City on a yearly deal, and then they loaned Clement Lenglet to Atletico Madrid, Barcelona finally able to name Olmo in their squad for the work against Rayo Vallecano set for later today. Spanish media also reported defender Andreas Christensen's long-term injury absence with an Achilles tendon issue also allowed more financial leeway within La Liga so they could sign and activate Dani Olmo. Starred for Spain as they won Euro 2024 before completing a €60 million or a $67 million move to Barcelona. So you end up with finally, because you got to maneuver 3 separate things. You had to do 3 things. You had to let a dude go on a free. You had to loan a guy to a competitor. And then you got injury relief. That's how you finally got to sign the guy, to activate the guy that you spent $67 million on in the offseason. Congratulations to you. So I anticipate that this will not be the last time that we see this kind of financial wrangling, and that's the word that I'll use in the short term. The financial wrangling that was set up so Barcelona could just finally activate Danny Olmo. That's where they are. That's where they are right now. Yikes. So good morning, Alex. Morning, Abby. Yes, it was a colorful discussion about the game in LA. But if there's anything that was left on the table, bring it up. We can bring it up this morning. Morning, Michael. Morning, Will. Well, and Will, like I said, we'll get into. We will get into the Oasis discussion. It might be opening kickoff part 2 on the back end of the Roy Lassiter conversation that we're going to have here in just a sec. Michael, the answer apparently is not anymore. Michael's asking, don't the Oasis brothers hate each other? Yeah, the Gallagher brothers, they do hate each other. Morning, OG. And morning, Will. Yes, hate is an understatement. Morning, Hutch. And Will, I don't think you're wrong. Will just puts like $7 signs in the conversation this morning. But yeah, we'll talk about Oasis too, because that's big, and it's really big news. You know, when one brother calls the other a potato, that shows your level of hatred towards your brother. He's a potato. Morning, Derek. So that was round 1, I guess, of opening kickoff. Danny Olmo finally getting signed in by our friends at Barcelona, but they had to do 3 moves to do it. So Mazel Tov, congratulations on you. You finally got it done. Anticipate more of that kind of financial gymnastics as we go forward when it comes to Barca and the signing. So, all right, that's opening kickoff. Brought to us by for opening kickoff part 1, because we'll come back and talk Oasis in part 2 coming up. That's Kickoff Coffee. That's your opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. That's your QR code for those of you who are watching on the video side of things on our YouTubes, on Twitch, or on the 280-character app. Don't forget, you use that QR code, you click in, and use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10%, reinvest it. Youth games, youth initiatives from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Now, as I said, busy week for us here at the network. Every week's busy, technically. But tomorrow night, it is a big matchup in MLS Next Pro with Atlanta United 2 hitting the road to take on Carolina Core at their new stadium, Truist Point. Maddie caught up with the head coach at Carolina Core, Roy Lassiter, and things are different for Core than they were at the very beginning of the season, because Core kind of does things differently. They're not a second team that is doing things the way that Atlanta United 2 does, where you're bringing in young talent, you're trying to get them acclimated to life as a professional, and then hopefully you send them on to fame, fortune, and success with the first team. It's different with Carolina Core. It's an independently owned club. They're not tied to any of the other clubs in Major League Soccer, so they kind of go about things differently. They bring in veterans. They bring in the younger players. And their first team, this is their first team. So you have a first team in Carolina, kind of like Chattanooga and Chattanooga FC and the independently run clubs, going up against second teams and teams that are trying to develop players to get them ready for first team action. So Carolina Core had a bit of a rough start in the Eastern Conference. They've turned things around, and they've put together a really solid string of results recently. So Maddie caught up with head coach Roy Lassiter, and here is their conversation as Carolina Core is making the stretch run in the Eastern Conference in MLS Next Pro, and Atlanta United 2 is next on the list.
And own our game. And
tell you what, I'm going to rewind that, because I thought I rewound it, but I didn't. So we're going to do this again. Here's Maddie's conversation with Roy Lassiter of Carolina Core, with hopefully not as much dead air as I did last time and trying to hit the right button. So here we go.
Alrighty, so I am here with head coach Roy Lassiter of Carolina Core, getting ready for that upcoming matchup against Atlanta United 2. They're coming to you guys this time. The past couple times it's been you guys coming to Fifth Third. Now they get to come to you at your stomping ground. What's been the anticipation leading up to this matchup?
Yeah, I think for my group, it's just been taking games one by one, right? Our main goal is to get into the playoffs. Um, Atlanta is again a very good team. They come off for 2 wins, a tie, and just a loss in their last game. But the team is still very much a strong team, talented players, all good on the ball, all desire and want the ball. So, we're going to have to be very, very sharp and own our game, and to be able to handle Atlanta and also get those 3 points. But we're looking forward to the challenge. We are in a pretty good run of form. There are things that we still have to tweak and change and just work on to get better and better and on our consistency in the game. And so we'll keep doing that. But Atlanta, they're going to come to play. And so we're just going to have to be ready for that.
Now, I do have to ask, because I believe the last time we had chatted, the stadium wasn't completely done yet. You guys had the chance to actually get to play in your home stadium. How has that been? Getting to see that completely done, getting the fans to come to you guys. What has that whole experience been like for you?
That's been really good. At first, the boys really weren't used to it. We were used to going to stadiums where there weren't too many fans there and just going and competing. But now, coming home and getting 4,000 to 5,000 fans every single game, every single night. It's exciting, and our boys took a little bit to get used to it. Now I feel that they're starting to get a little bit more comfortable in their own house, and so now they can just play. They can just play. The crowd's always there, always been great, and always supported, always loud, and so looking forward to another packed crowd, even on a Wednesday night. These guys come out. They come out in droves, and they really, really support.
Has it been interesting getting to see the different supporter sections that are made or the different fans? Like, is there a moment for you that sticks out that you just remember of a fan experience that you might have had?
You mean as a player or as a coach?
In with Carolina Core. Anything stuck out?
Yeah, I think they got the smoke bombs going, and that's pretty good. When there's a goal, so I really do like that. I think they really do. They just really get into it, and they stay in it the whole time. There's not too many things that stick out because I'm just really, really focusing on the players on the field at that time. And so, but I see it, when the games and the lights is flashing and the smoke is going up, those are pretty cool moments that I'm sure these players really do appreciate when they're playing.
All right. Enough about the stadium. We'll go back. We'll talk about the game a little bit. I want to talk about that last matchup against New England Revolution too. A 2-1 victory for you guys. A great game as well. You guys went up, and then they were able to tie it, and then you guys got the late goal in stoppage time. What was going through your mind through that whole game?
Yeah, I was like, boys, you better come through on this, especially when New England is having a little bit of a difficult time there in the season, like we've all had. And now they're a man down. And so we have a man advantage. And then, sometimes that can be very difficult as well. But I was thinking that the whole time, all right, okay, when you're going to get it, when you're going to get it. And I wanted them just to concentrate on just one goal. I knew if they just focused on just playing their game, playing fast, shifting the opposition, getting in crosses when they get in the final third, making runs, getting into the box. And we shot on goal 28 times, and so I'm thinking, you're just going to get it. And it got into the 80th minute. I'm like, okay, it's just they got to make it happen. None of these guys are leaving the stadium if this doesn't happen. So, they got the one. And I kind of knew when they got the one, they were going to get the other one if we had enough time. But I could tell we had enough time. I saw we had 7 minutes left in the overtime. So I was like, okay, that's plenty of time to get it done. And so I kind of just stood back a little bit. I really did. I didn't, it was just keep going. It was just keep going. That was my verbiage to them, just to keep going, and it'll fall for you. And it did. It finally did. And so I was really happy for them for that moment. And I was also happy for our fans. Our fans have been waiting to have that moment to, boys bust through there and they get it done. And they were all on the field too. I mean, all, a lot of the stands, a lot of the fans were all on the field, just wanting to shake the players' hands and hugs and autographs and all that kind of stuff. So for me, for them, I thought it was a good moment.
It's a great way to enter in this next matchup, going up against Atlanta United, coming off of a great win for you guys. You guys are hot. You guys are having really great moments. You're on a 2-game winning streak right now. The last time we had chatted in the regular season, I know we had chatted about Open Cup as well, but when we started at the very beginning of the season, it was loss, just trying to build that up. How has it been like to really see this team grow and develop and get a little bit more under themselves a little bit? Because it's been great to watch the development of this club so far this entire season.
Yeah, Maddie, it's been pretty pretty good. Yes, at the beginning it was frustrating. A bit frustrating at the beginning. I was in unfamiliar territory for sure. My staff was definitely in unfamiliar territory. We are a group of experienced players and coaches that are used to winning. And so we were coaching as such too. I mean, we were on the details of everything. We helped our players be prepared for every single match. And we put in that work so they would already know what was going to happen in the game, how the team was going to form, how they were going to shape up, what their threats, what their tendencies. And so we knew the boys were ready for it. There were little small errors in the game that cost you, and they do cost you. And we started teaching the boys that they must carry everything when they play. They must carry their careers. They must carry their families. They must carry everything, just like the staff. The staff we carry our whole entire family when we go to train and to coach and to prepare for a match. We carry everything. These players can't just carry little satchels and little backpacks. No, you got to carry everything when you play. It's everything. And so now they started putting that in perspective on the weight of everything, and what I mean by that is like, okay, we play on principle. We don't play on preference. Preference is when you don't feel like running here or you want to run over here, but the team's principles are this, and it needs to stay like this. When you decide not to really hustle and get back and run back with everything, and then we're talking 100%, not 50%, not a jog back, or not believing that your teammate will get it for you. No, you get back in the space. You get back to mark. You get back to hustle. You get back to close the space. And when you don't, you are really letting those 3 points go. And so when they start to understand that a lot more, and I just had to break it down to them just a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, then they start to get it. Then you can shout those out in training. You can shout those out in games, and they don't want to lose those 3 points. And now it's like, okay, forget it. I'm going to burn rubber. I'm going to get back there. I'm going to put my head down and just get back there as fast as I can and stick to the principles. And I tell them, when you stick to the principles and the small details, you become a little bit more successful, and you have a greater opportunity to be successful and to win. And so that's a lot of that is what I'm teaching. This team is brand new. Other teams have been around for 2 years and 7 or 8 months now. We've been around for 8 months since February. So are we supposed to be in this position? Are we supposed to be able to compete this well? Are we supposed to be able to beat the first place team? Are we supposed to? I don't know. I compared to Cincinnati, to the last 2 years, and now look at where they are now, because it just takes that much time. And so we nearly have the youngest team in the league, and we have a brand new team where players are coming from all around and have different experiences and talents and been taught different things. And now they are coming to myself and my staff, and now we are trying to incorporate a methodology of how we want to play, and also at the same time have a style on how we want to play too as well. So putting that all together does take time, and to explain that to an ownership group sometimes it can be difficult. But once we're given the time and once they've understood that, now they kind of understand the process a little bit better.
And it's a great time too as well. You're getting right into the last couple of games of the MLS Next Pro season. You're up there in 11th, Atlanta United's in 12th. It's such a close Eastern Conference. So close. Like any point, every single point matters at this point. Is that the mentality looking forward, that every game at this point, you need a result, whether it's a point, whether it's 2 points, 3 points? How important is it moving forward, and especially going up against a huge struggle that is the Eastern Conference right now?
Yeah, no, it's life. It is life. It is oxygen. It is life. It is everything. It is everything. No, the 3 points are everything. And we train for 3 points. Yes, we want to get points, period, in every single match, especially from now on. Every single point counts. And yes, the conference is tight. You know, you win 2 games and then you're probably up in the eighth place spot. You know, you're nearly in the playoffs now. And so we're fighting to get in there. And right now, our goal is to get in the playoffs. But we know we have to take it game by game, and we know we have Atlanta United that's right in front of us that are going to deny that opportunity for us. And we're going with everything we got, and we know that. And this is our 3rd time playing Atlanta. We know them, they know us. So and we both been on a pretty good streak here. You know, Atlanta just fell short the last game, but they've been up there too. They've been rolling themselves. So it sets the stage for a good match, for a competitive match. We're gonna think nothing different. We're gonna believe and stay confident in what we do, and believe in what we do and how we train, and hopefully, you know, get those 3 points.
I'm interested. It's always so fun whenever you get the MLS Next Pro matchups, because you always play them 3 times. So especially with us, it's, you know, we won 1, you guys won 1, and now it's, hey, this is it. This is the last time you're seeing each other. So this is kind of like the tiebreaker a little bit. This is going to be a who can come out on top moment. It's going to be a fun one, though. This is the one I had circled a little bit. I just think every single time we've played you guys in anything, I feel like it's always such a fun matchup.
Yeah, I believe both of these teams have gotten it together. You know, both of them have gotten it together. Both of these teams have gotten a little bit closer to now a little bit more consistency. We both hit our bumps. We both had our lumps. And so those are learning moments, right? None of us like to lose. No one, absolutely no one. And so, but we need them though. We need the losses to help us grow and learn and straighten that curve of understanding. So we all need it. So I'm just taking it with that kind of attitude. I think that has gone a long way with our group too. The word attitude, having an attitude, winning mentality, and giving it everything you got. And so that's what it is. And again, you know, both of these teams are finding their way for sure, and pretty much have found their way. They just need to stay consistent with it, right? Both teams, and so that's all we're trying to do here, and we're trying to make history for ourselves as well. First year in MLS Next Pro, and we want to make it, and we're going to try our best to make it into the playoff in our first year as well.
It's going to be a fun matchup, but Roy, as always, thank you so much again for coming on. Listen, we got to get the SDH crew out there
and
go come watch the game. I want to come to the stadium. I got to see what it looks like.
Well, I don't know what you're going to be doing in the next couple of days, but it's going to be happening there, here at the Truist Point Stadium here in High Point, North Carolina. So you might want to find your way to get there.
Listen, I will try any way I can. I want to come up there at some point. It's going to be so much fun, though. And again, Roy, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely, Maddie. Take care.
Maybe if I actually unmuted myself. There we go. It's one of those days. One of those days already. I'm sitting there and I'm waxing philosophic. I'm sitting there hitting buttons. Then I'm not hitting buttons. I muted just because I'd coughed just before I came on the air. So anyway, all right, to rewind and get back to the point that I was making. Okay. a lot of philosophical points that Roy Lassiter was making in that interview. Great for us to be able to catch up with Coach Lassiter and Carolina Core. You saw how early in the season, once again, they got off to a rough start. And it's just trying to get all of these folks acclimated to what Roy Lassiter and his coaching staff want to get accomplished there at Core. And he mentioned trying to explain that to the ownership group. It's like, give us time. And you're seeing right now what Carolina Core is able to do there on the field. We're not going to be able to make it up there in person to Truist Point tomorrow, but we'll have the match for you. Pregame at 7, kickoff a little after 7:30, 7:33 if my math is correct. Usually with the way that it works with Apple TV and MLS Next Pro matchups, it's 3 minutes past the advertised time. Not like it was this past weekend where, full disclosure, I was getting in my 4 miles on Sunday night, and it was listening to the end of the third place game in Leagues Cup and getting ready for the championship game in Leagues Cup. So it's a little after 7 o'clock. And if I'm remembering it correctly, published reports had the kickoff at 7:15, I think. I think it was 7:30, which means 7:40. But listening to the folks in one of the markets that was broadcasting the match at like 7:11, on-air host goes, yeah, it's supposed to be 7:15, but kickoff's really 7:40. And so I'm like, okay, then I guess I'll get home in time for everything, and I won't have to worry about it. I won't have to listen to local radio in trying to find the championship game for Leagues Cup. So 7:33 traditionally is the start time, or 3 minutes after the published start time, not 10 like it is with Major League Soccer. So 3 minutes after the published start time. Our pregame's at 7 at soccerdownhere.mixler.com. 7:33 will be the kick. We won't be at Truist Point live this time, even though that Roy Lassiter and everybody from Carolina Core has basically invited us up to High Point, North Carolina to come up and do things. We'll take them up on the deal at some point. But so there it is. That's the rundown of what it's going to look like here on the network as Atlanta United 2 takes on Carolina Core. So here's how it is right now in MLS Next Pro. And there are matches in play for a lot of teams that can get some climbing done if they take care of business. Atlanta United 2 is a part of that mix. So here's how it is in the Eastern Conference. Right now, it is FC Cincinnati, Philadelphia Union 2. They're on top in the East at 43 points each. Cincinnati has one more win. They've also played one less match. Crew 2 is in third with 40. Crown Legacy is fourth at 37. Messi and Friends 2 has one more win than NYCFC 2 and two more wins than Chicago Fire 2. That sets your 5, 6, and 7. Chattanooga FC in their first year, and after the matchup in High Point, North Carolina on Wednesday, it is a quick turnaround for Atlanta United 2 because then they go to Fort Finley to take on Chattanooga FC, and that one is Sunday night at 7 o'clock. We will be at Fort Finley. We like to see some of the Two's supporters up there as well, but we will be at Fort Finley, 6:30 pregame, 7:03 kick. So it's High Point, North Carolina Wednesday. It is Fort Finley on Sunday for Atlanta United 2 as they get to try and make up some of the matchups that they have. We'll get into those details here in just a sec. So Chattanooga FC in their first year under Rod Underwood in MLS Next Pro as they came over from NISA, they are in 8th at 35 points. That's the bar right now. But once again, they've played 23 matches. Here's your subplot. Orlando City B at 34 points. They're in 9th. Red Bulls 2 are at 33 points. Then the matchup that we're talking about, Carolina Core is at 28. Atlanta United 2 is at 26. But both have only played 21 matches. So they have 2 matches in hand on folks that are above them in the standings. So if you take care of business, you're breathing right there. You're right there on the edge of the 8. Toronto FC 2 is at 25 points. Huntsville City Football Club, they've had a bit of a good run of form recently. They're at 23. New England has been eliminated. They played 22 matches, and they have been eliminated from the playoffs already. Revs 2 out of the playoffs already. They've been eliminated. 22 matches, 17 points. They're done. It will be interesting to see what Richie Williams does with Revs 2 the rest of this season, and who plays Revs 2 and who might be able to take advantage depending on what things are going to be how things are going to be approached philosophically for the Revs, who have not to this point won a game on the road all year. 0-11-1. Leaving the comment about karma and Richie Williams alone for the present. Western Conference. North Texas, right now on top at 46 points. All Caps 2, St. Louis City SC2, they're at 43. Ventura County's at 40, LAFC 2 is at 39, Tacoma Defiance at 36. They have one more win than Whitecaps 2, and they have two more wins than the Town, which sounds like a Ben Affleck movie. 8th is Dynamo Dos. They're at 32 points. They have 8 wins. They played one more match than Timbers 2, who are in 9th. Sporting Kansas City 2 are at 28 points. Austin FC 2 also at 28, but they have 2 less wins and 1 less match played. 5, 6, 10, and 3. 10 draws for Austin FC 2. Los Verdos, by the way. Real Monarchs at 25 points. Colorado Rapids 2 at 22. And Loons 2 at 19 points through 21 matches. They are 13 points out of a playoff spot in 21 matches played. So right now, the matches that have not been played, the matches that you have up your sleeve for Carolina Core, Atlanta United 2, and possibly Toronto FC 2 can help you out in chasing the 8. But you got to win them. First stage of that is basically, I think, an elimination game. If one of the two teams in this matchup tomorrow on the network, one of the two teams tomorrow gets full points, then I think that pretty much puts the other team's playoff wishes, dreams, aspirations on life support. You get 1 point or 2 points either side. You're still both kind of climbing. You've still got a match in hand. But I think if one of the teams gets 3, then I think the other team's playoff hopes are on life support. And like I said, we'll have that one on the network, and that'll be 7 o'clock pregame, 7:33 kick on the SDH network, MLS Next Pro, Atlanta United 2 at Carolina Core. And once again, it's really cool that Core make Roy Lassiter as readily available as they have this season. I mean, we've caught up with him a couple of times, and we've gotten to see the growth of the team firsthand in the Eastern Conference, where they really did get off to a slow start. And they've kind of the engine's kind of turning over now for Roy Lassiter and Carolina Core. So it's been really cool to see all of that work for Carolina Core. Big matchup in MLS Next Pro tomorrow night, and you'll have it here on the network. Soccerdownhere.mixlr.com. Just to give you an idea, there are 3 matches tomorrow night. One's tomorrow afternoon on top of the parking deck at St. John's as NYCFC2 wraps up their time at St. John's on top of the parking deck. And they go to Icon Stadium at Randall's Island for matchups in September. 5 o'clock kick on Season Pass. It's NYCFC2 and Orlando City B. Then you've got Core and Atlanta United 2. That's also on Season Pass. Maybe you could sync up your audio of us if you want to watch the video version. Sync up Jason on the call and sync up Soccer Down Here in the SDH network to MLS Season Pass. There's no local radio option for Season Pass yet. So you'd have to sync it up with the app and maybe run it through your TV or something. Then at 9 o'clock, Los Verdos hosting Loons 2. And that might be the elimination game for Minnesota United 2. If they don't get full points in Austin, Texas. All 3 of the games tomorrow night on Apple TV and MLS Season Pass before business picks back up again on Friday night, and then a couple on Saturday. And then Sunday is the day traditionally where they have a lot of stuff from MLS Next Pro and early returns, the matchup in Chattanooga, also on MLS Season Pass. So both the matchups tomorrow and on Sunday on MLS Season Pass and the SDH network. So that's your rundown of everything going on in MLS Next Pro. Once again, can't thank our friends at Carolina Core enough for helping us, spread the word about a first-tier team here in the SDH footprint. Okay, I know that we weren't done with opening kickoff, so we'll go back to opening kickoff. And Derek, I mean, to me, it's just Messi and friends too. That's the easiest thing to say, because if you sit there and take the time to go Inter Miami CF2, it takes too long and it takes too much to think. So it's just a lot easier to sit there and say Messi and friends too, considering that you're seeing a lot of the folks that are playing at Messi and friends too having to get first team minutes. Lawson Sunderland is an example. You're seeing a lot of folks that are playing for Messi and friends too getting first team minutes because of injuries and reds and salary cap, unless of course that really doesn't necessarily apply. But you're seeing the pathway. You're seeing folks getting minutes. Ryan Saylor was a part of it. Ian Frey was a part of it. Benja Kromoski was a part of it early before he solidified himself as a first teamer with Messi and friends. Bart, you're not wrong. Inter Miami of Fort Lauderdale 2. So let's see. Inter Miami of Fort Lauderdale CF2. Playing at an erector set at Chase Stadium. And Abby's like, no, Miami, it's just straight up Fort Lauderdale 2s. But then that would be the Strikers, wouldn't it? So it's just a lot easier for me to say Messi and friends too. And so that's where we are with Messi and friends too, playing in Fort Lauderdale at an erector set at Chase Stadium until further notice, until they finally start construction of the other building. But knowing them, they'll probably just have the 2s play at Chase while the big boys play down by the airport on top of the churned over turf that was the Melreese Golf Club. Right, but I know. So people will just gravitate. When I think Fort Lauderdale, because I'm of a certain vintage, Abby, I think Strikers. And so that's where I am. But yeah, so Messi and friends too, that's just what I was, yes, always in their heart. Absolutely. And I love their hoops jerseys. Okay, so Bart, the Fort Lauderdale United men too. That almost sounds like a barbershop duo, not quite a quartet. The Fort Lauderdale United men too. Here at concert at the Fort Lauderdale Lions Club Hall. It's Fort Lauderdale United men too. That's what it sounds like anyway. It sounds like a duo that just kind of tours all of the small venues. Like what was it? What was the movie that had the finish with what was it? It was the dinner theater in Fort Lauderdale at the end, and was it at the beginning of the movie? Was it Kevin Kline in Soap Dish when he was doing Willie Loman, the one-man show of Willie Loman at a Fort Lauderdale dinner theater? Oh, great. Now I can't think of it now. Alex with an important question. And this is, when do they start scraping the toxic sludge from the golf course? That is the gazillion-dollar question here. Inter Miami, Melreese construction. So let me go ahead. Since you've gone down this road, I'll go ahead and see if we can come up with an answer from our friends at the Miami Herald. Okay, so technically it was begun a year ago because pictures came out. Construction began on Miami Freedom Park. And then in January, pictures came out. Okay, so crews first began demolition of the new stadium site back in September 2024, 131-acre lot just east of Miami, formerly the Melreese Country Club, 25,000. That's still too small. So it looks like January, sometime between September and January, and there are aerial photos from our friends at World Soccer Talk, and it looks like they've carved out a baseball diamond in dirt on the golf course property. Man, that looks like they're just going to cram that stadium into that space. Okay, so World Stadia looks like they have the spot. And Yeah. Okay. So the Miami area politicians are looking for extra public funding. Back in December, Miami New Times reported the group was calling on state officials to stick the public with a $5 million tax bill. Extra cash would be paid to clean up contaminated soil at the site and improve drainage. News after the Moss brothers claimed the club would be 100% responsible for funding the new stadium. So it looks like they have been carving up the turf since at least January. So pictures do exist. And it now appears, according to an article back in July, that Freedom Park will not be ready until 2026. So you had a fan channel on the YouTubes recording progress of the stadium, the golf course deconstruction and the stadium construction. The host for one of the YouTube's channels, one of the fan channels, says he was told vertical, meaning construction, would happen in the next month or two. Opening date end of 25. Team would not play in the stadium in 25. Season would be 26. Melreese Country Club needed considerable remediation after years of contamination from toxic ash underneath the soil. So remediation to me, that's just a fancy term for, renovating all of the turf to make sure that it's the way that it's supposed to be. So for making the ground firmer and more solid allows for the foundation of the stadium to be more secure. I would hope so. So yeah, Messi's contract is supposed to be at the end of 25. There is no 26. There is no 26 in the contract at present. But it appears maybe at the end of the 25. But you'd really have to boogie and get something done in the next year. Maybe you build an erector set at Melreese in addition to the erector set that you have at Chase. So you go from one erector set to the other and play at Melreese the end of 25. You sit there and you plant your flag. You get the one last match in there in the regular season or whatever. And then, you get your trumpets blaring, and then you're ready for the 26th season. I don't know. But it looks like with just ground being flattened and the Melreese Golf Club fairways and first cut being carved out, there is no vertical yet. Looks like they're just still cleaning out space horizontally, making it, getting the dirt, getting your foundation squared away. There's no vertical yet. A lot of horizontal, but no vertical. And I still think 25,000 is too small for a stadium. That's just me. And so Bart, yeah, you're probably going to get Bart is like one more away day in the erector set, probably two more, let's be real. And Alex said he used to work very close to there before Alex moved north. So Alex knows all about Melreese and the toxic nature of the surface and I'm just going to say the remediation. Apparently, Michael, I think they're blowing up the entire course. I think that they are taking the entire Melreese Golf Club, all 18 holes, and turning it into parking and green space and stadium, because there are drawings up about Melreese and what it's going to look like with the 25,000 seat stadium that can only go a certain height because it's in the approach pattern for the Miami International Airport. So literally, and I don't even know if you could do, you'd probably have to get special papal dispensation to do it, but I don't know if you could launch fireworks from the roof of the new stadium because of it being in the flight path of approaching planes at MIA. So, think about it. Right now, you can only be a certain height because you're in the approach path for one of the runways at MIA. Because of that, you know how most soccer stadia, you want to have celebrations and things. Think about opening night at New Melrys for Messi and friends, even though Messi's contract will have expired if this happens in the 26th season, which we think it probably will at this point. So you want to have fireworks, say. Would having fireworks on the roof of New Melrys, for lack of a corporate sponsor at the moment, would fireworks on the roof of the stadium violate any kind of coding in the area because you have planes coming in at a fairly regular clip, minute 40, and I know that at Hartsfield Jackson, it's usually a minute 10 for takeoffs during the week and then maybe a minute 45 on the weekends. If you have fireworks on the roof of a structure that is within the approaching flight path of an airport, could you even launch the fireworks because of the planes coming in for landing? I mean, you're coming in for a landing. If you wanted to do things off of the roof, like they did it all in at Wembley this past weekend, where, for every match they had fireworks at the roof of Wembley. Okay, cool, fine, great. But if you're coming in for a landing at MIA and you're at New Melrys and you want to launch fireworks, would you not be freaking out the pilots and the planes coming in for a landing because you're launching them in the approach plan for the airliners that are coming into MIA? And even if you have fireworks on the surface of the stadium, I mean, probably could get away with it there because it'd be just like smoke and, pilots could fly around smoke. But I don't think you could legitimately launch fireworks because you're talking about flares in the air and planes coming in for landing. I'm looking at it. I'm just thinking out loud what you might be able to do, but I'm sure that, as we have all discussed in the Twitch pitch, rules were made to be bent, if not broken. Michael losing a promo, 9 in a match. I know, but Michael, talk to Alex about how poisoned the land is. I don't know if you necessarily look. If you went to Melrys in its original form and you tried to light a cigar, like if you're on the back nine and you're doing pretty well and you want to light a cigar, that would not be advised. Not advised at Melrys in its previous form. So, yeah, it is looking like 26 with Messi and friends. Now, knowing Major League Soccer or knowing Messi and friends and the Moss brothers and David Beckham, I could see a deal where the contract runs out 25 season. Messi is signed to a deal, kind of like where you sign the one game and then you retire as. First home match at Melrys, Messi signs a deal to where he covers that first match at Melrys, New Melrys. And then he goes on with the rest of his life as an ambassador for Major League Soccer, what have you. There'll be, and he gets to, everybody's, Messi signed for the 26th season. Signs for that first match. Then he retires, something like that. I could see Messi signing a deal into the 26th season and then going forward. Considering that, this might be, it's not a Marcus Allen year, considering that he's fighting an injury, but with the lack of matches he's played this year, maybe it goes into the 26th season a little bit. Sign him for an extension, an option year at 26. So he gets into New Melrys, because I'd always thought that would kind of be the plan, that the stadium gets built in 25, end of Messi's deal in 25, Messi plays, woo, New Melrys is off and running, World Cup in 26, and boom. But now with it looking more like maybe the end of the 25, maybe 26, I'm thinking there's going to be some kind of a contract extension for the Gulfstream Galacticos, and they get into the new building and they figure something out from there. Alex says he doesn't have any special knowledge, never gave it a second thought until Messi and friends started sniffing around and the commissioners started doing their thing. And yes, Bart, you think Miami's beholden to laws? Alex, laws can be changed. Laws can be changed. I know, Michael. Michael, I know you're goofing, but yeah. Lighting a cigar at Old Mel Reese was probably not advised, especially in the latter years. Just saying. So now that we're starting hour number 2, technically 55 minutes in. Morning, Alex. Morning, Abby. I know that Abby had to go do a Zoom. Morning, Michael. Okay, so Morning, Will. We're going to talk about Oasis. Morning, OG. Morning, Hutch. Morning, Derek. This is where everybody was discussing me and my muting after the interview with Roy Lassiter. So I have problems going in because I let it play to like 50 seconds before I queued it. And then coming out, I'd muted myself. So well done on the way in, well done on the way out. Good work by me. There's Derek, there's Bart, and all of the nicknames for the new barn. And so that's all right. So we're caught up. Oasis. I know that when you end up with two brothers that hate each other and they have a backstage brawl, and this is like 15 years ago, and they're like, nope, we're done. Of course, you figure that there might be a point where hell freezes over and the Eagles get together and they go out on tour. Apparently, we have this now with Oasis. 5 cities in 2025 in the spring and summer, multiple dates, and there is a discussion about a world tour. But you would have thought that with the Gallagher brothers, where literally one's calling the other a potato. Now, there are insults and there are insults. When you don't like your brother, you get into a fight, you break up as a band, you don't tour anymore. And then on the 280 character app, you call your brother a potato. You'd think that there was no point of return, but apparently there is. I'm guessing some promoter somewhere basically had enough zeros at the end of the number that they pushed across the table. Probably had to do it twice because they weren't sitting next to each other. All right, Noel and Liam, here's the number. Split down the middle 50-50. I guess they agreed to the number, but there are published reports that the brothers are having financial problems, divorces and things like that. And that might have necessitated the spring and summer concert tour by Oasis in multiple venues in England. And it might necessitate even further a world tour in 2025. But I have never been called a potato. But seriously, one of the brothers called the other a potato and continued to do so over and over and over again. Until the point where numbers are pushed across the table and you end up with Oasis back together again. And I'm looking forward to it because God knows how expensive the tickets are going to be. But they're playing Wembley and they're playing playing 4 other cities with multiple dates. And I was trying to think of my top 5 songs the other day when all of this talk was coming through, and it was going to be, what are they going to play? What would the show list look like? Those kinds of things. But hey, if there's enough money thrown at a problem, the problem can be put aside. Black Crows, brothers didn't like each other. You push the number to the other side of the table, numbers cut in half, the brothers put it aside. And I also think that the brothers Robinson probably sat there and it's like, look, it was a long time ago. We're different people. And so that's when the Black Crows got it all figured out. Derek, I'm right there with you. Derek says the possibility of an onstage brawl is enough to pull me in. And the brothers themselves have done very, very good solo work and solo concert work. I think it was Liam that did the BBC, the MTV Europe concert in Hull that was fairly acoustic in nature. Very, very well done. And then the other Gallagher brother with the Birds, the Birds name for his band on tour. Once again, really good work there too. Now you bring them back together, and I think that Derek is correct. I think the possibility of an onstage brawl is enough to pull anybody in. And Bart is saying that one can only hope that the Gallagher brothers coming together signals the downfall of Manchester City. Because if they were fans separately and they had this success, I'm just taking the logic to its point. If the brothers were fans separately and Manchester City had all the success, the brothers get back together, Manchester City falls as a club. I see where he's going. Michael says he was just in an HR training class. The presentation mentioned many phrases that cannot be said in these times. Potato was not mentioned. I think that goes to the imagination of the Gallagher brothers. Getting around HR classes and HR training classes about things you cannot say. You call somebody a potato, and unless you catch the reference, somebody looks at you and goes, potato what? Literally, your eyebrow is raised, and you just sit there and you look at the other person. That's weird. You don't sit there and you don't take them to HR at that point. So what was the violation? Well, he called me a name. Okay, so what was the name? He called me a potato. Okay. Is there anything else that you'd like to file in this report? No, he called me a potato over and over again. All right, write it down. Put it over here in the file. All right. Well, thank you for reporting. And we will come up with a decision on this matter soon. But no, Michael, I think you're correct. I think that potato probably was not mentioned in any HR training classes about phrases that cannot be said today. Maybe the denotation is just different. Morning, Harry. We're talking about Oasis getting back together to start hour number 2. Alex. Remember the one time that Oasis was on MTV Unplugged? Liam faked being sick immediately before they had to go on stage, so Noel had to sing all the songs, and he smashed it. Alex is Team Noel. So, but yeah, I think it was Noel that did the MTV Britain Unplugged in Hull, and I think it was Liam that has the Birds with his group name. Derek, being called a potato doesn't have to be a bad thing. Taters are delicious. That's true. You know, and then you get into the discussion of, okay, is it crinkle fries? Is it curly fries? Is it straight cut? You know, is it just tots? And apparently we have more than one folk this morning that are Team Noel. But it will be interesting. How do you divide it? This is like Towering Inferno with Steve McQueen and Charlton Heston. Because literally McQueen wanted the same number of lines, I think, as Charlton Heston in Towering Inferno. So they had to go down the script and go, all right, line McQueen, line Heston, line McQueen, line. That's what they literally had to do. Because Steve McQueen, if he wasn't going to get top billing or if he was going to get co-billing, he wanted to have as many lines, if not more lines, than Charlton Heston in Towering Inferno. So that's what you have here is the musical version of Towering Inferno. Because you don't know what the song list is going to look like. Is the song list going to vary? How many times is Noel going to be singing lead? How many times is Liam going to be singing lead? How do you gauge this? And it goes back to the original point from Derek about the possibility of an onstage brawl. What happens in these cases if somebody sings one too many songs, unless there was an okie doke from the other brother to sit there and go, well, you know, it was okay. It's okay to sing one more song today. I don't feel like singing. So that's where we are. Oasis is back together. It's going to be spring and summer of 25, and it's a handful of cities, probably setting up a world tour because apparently they're both having financial problems in some circles, and so enough zeros will fix that. So that's where we are. Gossip, rumor, innuendo, stuff, signings, all that kind of stuff before we get into what happened in the weekend that was in MLS. Looks like Manchester United struck a deal for Manuel Ugarte. They're going to pay PSG 42 million pounds up front plus 8 in potential add-ons. Ugarte's traveling today. Juve finally got Toon Coop Miners. They're going to pay 53 million euro up front plus 6 for the Atalanta star. Raheem Sterling is open to a potential Manchester United switch. And that scream that you heard was Drew Dickinson, by the way. But he wants to discuss his contract with Chelsea before making a decision. The talk that we had about Kepa leaving Chelsea, joining Bournemouth on a season-long loan, extending his deal with the Blues until 26 before signing with the Cherries. That's from Fabrizio Romano, who got downgraded, by the way, and read it to a third-degree source for proper information. Al Hilal made a huge bid to sign Kingsley Coman from Bayern Munich, also interest from Barca and a couple of Premier League clubs. Once again, Fabrizio Romano. Newcastle apparently is now up to 65-5 to try to get Mark Gahey from Crystal Palace. Started out at 55-5, went to 60-5. Now apparently it's 65-5, and it looks like that's going to happen. But that's also from the 4-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Crystal Palace are close to signing Eddie Nketiah. Since it didn't happen with Forest, looks like it's going to happen with Palace for about 30 million pounds. Atleti is shopping for midfielders, and it looks like they are chasing after Mateus Nunes, who is down the pecking order, especially after Ilkay Gundogan came back to Manchester City. No formal offer has been made yet. And once again, that's from our friends at The Athletic. And to a point that Michael made the other day about The Athletic. I don't know if it's just me, other than the fact that they got me, excuse me, last time around with the subscription. They got me. And so obviously I've got to keep an eye on my end of subscription dates because I am paying ungodly full rate for The Athletic. When in years past, it's like, I'm not paying that rate. Oh, okay, how about $20 a year? And then I'll do that. But they got me this last time. And now I cannot access my app because it's got a different email address than the one that's attached to the payment plan. And this might be just user error. So take the information and the rant for what it is. But I tried to log into my app, and it gives me my secondary email address that is not attached to the payment plan that's attached to The Athletic. And so it tells me that I got to go to a NewYorkTimes.com account login, which is up to date. But there is no way to eliminate the secondary email address without blowing up my entire account attached to that, to The Athletic and the New York Times. And I'd have to start all over again with the secondary email address, blowing out everything, all the information that's there. So to Michael's point, The Athletic and their attachment to nytimes.com, they're very, very slick and sly about how they make sure that they keep you as a part of the family plan. I mean, I have a couple of months to figure out, okay, how do I swing this and try to figure out how to put my original email address in as a part of the plan. And this could be user error. And there could be just a very simple way to make this happen, but it's just in this particular case, as I'm trying to navigate and just use my app, they're making it profoundly difficult for someone who really doesn't know how to navigate an app. Alex, you tried to cancel and they no longer say, wait, let me talk to my manager? Yes. Morning, Alex. We'll see you tomorrow. So, yeah. I didn't try to cancel. I just wanted to reorient it to the primary email address. Well, see, and Michael, what I've done is when it gets to the point of renewal, I say no. And usually I'll do it with like a month left. because then they'll come back, and it's like $20. That I'll do. That I can spend. The current number that they got me on because of multiple emails and crisscrossing communication, I'm not renewing at this number. No, not by any stretch of the imagination. $20, yeah. $2 a month, 20 total, sure, absolutely. Not at the current rate that you got me on. Not happening. But you make it difficult to navigate, to change out email addresses and all of that. So I'm having those issues in dealing with all of the lovely activity that is attached to apps and phones and things. Other stuff going on overseas before we get into the weekend that happened in Major League Soccer. Chelsea exploring several striker options, and this is from our buddy Ben Jacobs at Gimme Sports. Ivan Toney among the names. Still no bid to Brentford as of Tuesday lunch. Remember, there's a week left in the window. Al Ahly is the only club currently talking to Brentford and trying to move fast. Toney has agreed to Al Ahly's financial terms and said yes to the project, but the two clubs have not agreed to a fee. Chelsea could try to jump in late. Chelsea will only advance if the fee is reasonable, according to Jacobs, and Toney fits into Chelsea's wage structure. Insert laugh track here. I wish I had just like a laugh track. Chelsea still not ruling out a late move for Victor Osimhen. PSG yet to reopen talks. Osimhen wants to stay in Europe, could give Chelsea leverage if they're the only European suitor late in the window. Lukaku's been given permission to travel to Napoli for his medical ahead of signing a 3-year deal. Initial fee is €30 million. While Edifak is looking at a couple of younger talents in Chelsea. And then Al Ettifaq could offload one of their foreign players if they bring in the younger talent that they are staring at from both Chelsea and Everton. We mentioned the Nketiah deal. Arsenal dropped their price from the beginning of the window. Nketiah always expected to leave Palace. The move is now seen as suiting all parties. Kieran McKenna confirms that talks, the boss at Ipswich, that talks are still ongoing for Armando Broja. There's an Achilles issue in Broja's medical that has put the deal in doubt, but it's not off. And also Everton are interested, but they have to figure out a way to fund the move. Medical tests obviously ongoing on Kepa. One more year of the contract that got added. Agreement's done. The number attached to Toney and Al Ahly financials are close to €60 million over 3 years. Saudi clubs trying to reach the agreement with Brentford after seeing the bid of up to $35 million with add-ons turned down. Forest went after Johan Vissa from Brentford. That got rejected, understandably so by Thomas Frank, because if you're losing Ivan Toney, then you would lose Johan Vissa. That's two of the three guns that you have up top. So that makes absolute sense from the perspective of Brentford in this case. PSG apparently also get a 10% sell-on clause as a part of the Ugarte deal. €60 million package. 50 plus 10 from Manchester United. McTominay set to travel to Napoli for a medical to complete his £25 million move. Club reluctant to lose somebody who's been with him since the age of 5, but they couldn't guarantee him the starting position that he was looking for. So those are the early returns. João Cancelo set for a Manchester City exit as a bid has been accepted. Looks like $25 million for Al Hilal, €25 million. Finalized tonight following a broad agreement between the two clubs a couple days ago. So Manchester City set to receive €25 million fee if it goes to plan. Verbal agreement from Al Hilal to João Cancelo for 3 years and 45. Newcastle have reopened talks with Burnley for keeper James Trafford. Burnley rejected an offer of £15 million earlier in the window. So that's some of the other returns with gossip, rumor, and innuendo. Wojciech Szczesny, by the way, retired from a professional football. No one could grab a deal with him. So you just go out, flat out retire. So that's where Wojciech Szczesny is. over the weekend, Major League Soccer. Like I said, tonight we got the 3 matches. The 2 can-champ matches, Toronto Forge and Vancouver and Pacific. Forge have a 2-1 lead heading into the matchup at BMO. Still no update from what we talked about yesterday from the Joshua Clokey article at The Athletic, where apparently 5 weeks ago there was another drone seen over a practice at Forge FC before leg 1 of that matchup in the Canadian Championship. No identification as to whose drone it was, what it was doing, and why it was doing it. Forge, according to sources, said, yeah, we saw it, but we didn't want to report on anything about it. Just didn't want to do it. So, investigation continues as to that particular drone and if it has ties to Toronto FC and or any orders from John Herdman to continue the discussions that we've had about Herdman and drones in the past. But Toronto and Forge going at it. They're the early part of the Canadian Championship, and then Vancouver and Pacific at BC Place in the semifinals. In between that, on the free side of Apple TV, Kansas City, Sporting Kansas City and Indy 11 in one of the matchups in the Open Cup, as we are to this particular point of the Open Cup, the semifinals with Kansas City. Well, that's interesting. For a second there, I was denied. I don't have permission to view a page. Excuse me? I don't quite see that as being truthful. It wasn't. Reloaded and everything was fine. So tonight, Sporting at home a minus 213. Draws a plus 361. I'd go there. Then Indy 11 are a plus 442 to win in 90 minutes. Tomorrow, right now, Seattle favored in the other semifinal and Open Cup at a plus 148. 90-minute draws a plus 218. LAFC to win is a plus 172, and you will have a motivated LAFC group after what happened this past weekend in losing to Columbus in Leagues Cup, so they couldn't get into the Triple C. So now you've got to go with this avenue of getting into the Triple C. So we'll see what happens there. But Sporting, understandably, a big favorite tonight, going up against Indy 11 at Children's Mercy Health Park, and that one is later. So this past weekend in Major League Soccer, it was screwy. I mean, I can't think of any other way to describe it. I mean, everybody's coming back from Leagues Cup, whether you're still playing in it, you just got bumped out, or you've been on hiatus. And the action was crazy. Minnesota and Seattle had a 5-goal thriller. When would you ever associate a 5-goal thriller with the recent run of form of Minnesota United? Seattle gets a 1-0 lead with Jordan Morris. Yeboah scores to make it 1-1 from the spot. 4 minutes later, Jackson Reagan scores. So it's 2-1 at the break. Minnesota evens it up with Yeboah getting his brace, and then Albert Rusnak, who at the age of 702 got a goal to make it 3-2, and Seattle escaped with a 3-2 win at Minnesota, who seems to be gripping right now. Charlotte and Red Bulls, a 1-1 draw. And we're seeing if we can effort Jessica Charman for Friday to discuss what's going on with Charlotte right now. The addition of Tim Ream at the back, all the moving parts that are there, and see how Charlotte is responding to things. But with the home match at B of A going up against Red Bulls, their lineup last time, just for knowledge: Christian Kalina in net, backline, Euronen, Ream, Melanda, and Byrne. My guess is if you're Atlanta United, you are probably once again going down the right-hand side, chasing after Tim Ream and Euronen, as opposed to Melanda, who has really come into his own this season at the back. Or maybe you're pursuing down the wings purely, and maybe the right-hand side a little more. Diani and Westwood. You can call it a 4-2-3-1, call it a 4-5-1 that Dean Smith did last time, which either works. Diani and Westwood, Leo Labata, Bronico, Kerwin Vargas, and Świderski up top. So that was their lineup going up against Red Bulls. Still no Forsberg for Red Bulls, by the way. But I think if you look at the edges, just at first blush, going down the left-hand side, because remember last time when Charlotte was in the building before Abada scored twice, and Atlanta United had a lead, and then it ends up flipping into a Charlotte win. Nathan Byrne was being taken advantage of. Atlanta attacking down the left-hand side. Nathan Byrne was seeing shadows. Nathan Byrne probably knowing this, is probably going to be getting a little extra help, but that's why you've got Malanda over there to help shade. And that's why I think, as I'm workshopping this through in my head, you're probably going to be going down the right-hand side. You're going to press Nathan Byrne, see if he has the same response against your speed that happened last time. Malanda shades over. Right-hand side's available to you with Euronen and Ream and Diani. So that's the early thought. If Charlotte trots out the same lineup that they did on the weekend against Red Bulls. So early thoughts on that anyway. So we'll put a bookmark in there as we go. Dallas and DC. 5-goal thriller involving Seattle and Minnesota. How about 7 with DC and Dallas? Did not anticipate 7 goals on the board with DC and Dallas scoring 4 of them. Christian Benteke scores to the applause of a lot of fantasy owners early on. So it's 1-0, second minute. Kosi Tafari scores to tie it at 1 7 minutes later. So you're not out of the 10th minute and you've got 2 goals on the board. Leggett scores in the 21st to make it 2-1 Dallas. Areola scores in the 40th to make it 3-1 Dallas. Once again, this was not an anticipated path in this match. Goal by DC, 3-2 at the break, but not before a red card at 45 plus 2. Sabeling scores the 4th goal. Jared Stroud scores the 3rd goal. And played the final 40 minutes, DC did, down a man. Played the second half down a man. But chasing that game-tying goal in the final 40 minutes, they don't get it. DC loses 4-3 in the Eastern Conference. Did not have that as an anticipated result. Miami over Cincinnati 2-0. We talked about Tomas Aviles and his red card. Second time he has done that this year for Messi and friends. So Aviles gets a yellow in the 11th. 30 minutes later, 31, gets his second yellow, so it's a red. Messi and friends get to the half. Luis Suarez scored 2 goals in the first 6 minutes. 2-0 at the break. Cincinnati can't find an equalizer. We gave you the stat yesterday. The last 4 matches that Cincinnati has played in where they have been up a man, they've only scored 1 goal. In those moments where they were up a man, last 4 times out, they've only scored 1 goal in those 4 matches. Cincinnati's still looking for stuff at the back. It looks like they might be signing, according to Laurel Pfahler up in Cincinnati, they may sign a free agent, which you can do in Major League Soccer until the roster freeze September 13th. They might be signing Teenage Hadibi, who you may remember from his time with Houston Dynamo. So Hadibi right now is playing in Turkey, or he was playing in Turkey last year. He's currently out of contract, so he's a free agent. So Cincinnati might be kicking the tires on Teenage Hadibi, who used to play with Houston Dynamo and was playing in Turkey, but isn't playing anywhere right now. So keep an eye on that move as they try once again to try to get as much reinforcement at the back as possible, because they got dudes playing out of position and they're still having to chase things. Their lineup last time at the back was like a 5-3-2, 5-2-3, however you want to call it. Yedlin, Chidozie Awazian playing in the middle, and Miles playing at left back in a back 3, or left center back in a back 5. So they got Miles playing on the left-hand side to cover up what they don't have because of all the injuries. So it's left center back, or left back, depending on if it was a back three or a back five. Yuya Kubo and Luca Orellano coming to help out, and that's why I said it would either be a left center back in a back five or a left back in a back three. Then you had Pavel Buka, Obena Wobodo. Wobodo had a tremendous error that led to the second goal. Back pass that didn't have a whole lot of heat on it. Got picked off. And that gave Miami the 2-0 lead. So Messi and friends off of Luis Suarez and an error by Cincinnati get up 2-0. Red card to Aviles. Cincinnati can't take advantage of it. I mean, up front you had Dottie Valenzuela, Kevin Kelsey, and Nico Gioacchini getting the start. But they couldn't do anything against Messi and friends. Lucho Acosta still not well enough to give you 90. Came on as a sub, got a yellow card too. So you don't have Lucho Acosta at 100%, and you're kind of limping in right now. Just to give you an idea about stats on the day, Cincinnati had 17 shots, 6 on target. So they're just firing away. When you're down 2-0, they're just firing away. 6 shots on target. Messi and friends in that match, they had 45% possession. If I could get my upper plate to work. 4 shots on target, 3 shots on net, 2 of them in the back of the net in the first 6 minutes. So if you take that first 6 minutes out, 2 shots, 1 on target in the final 84 minutes. Why? Because it didn't matter. You had a 2-0 lead. Cincinnati couldn't do a damn thing about it. 8 corners for Cincinnati, 2 offside, 4 offside for Messi and friends. 116 of the 26 duels in the air. Cincinnati did 1 save on the day for Celentano. 6 saves by Drake Callender. 18 fouls by Cincinnati of the 30 that were called in the match. 4 yellows on the day for Cincinnati. But you were down 2-0 in the first 6 minutes. You had a man advantage for the final 48, and you did nothing. I got more questions than I do answers right now involving Cincinnati, especially with all the stuff that's going on at the back, or the stuff that's not going on at the back, to be more honest with you. Also on the board, New England beat the ish out of Montreal, 5-0. They beat the ever-loving ish out of Montreal. Joey Saputo was there to see this happen. I initially thought when I saw that Joey Saputo was there at the match that Laurent Courtois was not going to make it. Bobby Wood scores twice in the first half, so he got a brace. He got a natural brace, 2-0 at the break. Lima, Vrioni, and Luca Langoni, their $7 million purchase from South America, scored. Langoni, I think, had a goal and an assist. But Caleb Porter, I'm fairly certain, enjoyed beating the ish out of Montreal. Montreal's got other problems, too, off the field, involving a certain individual. Just ask Laurent Courtois about who wants to play and who doesn't. But legitimately, I thought that Laurent Courtois, after losing 5-0 to New England, was out the door. I legitimately thought he was out the door. There's talk of them picking up free agents as well as best they can between now and the end of the window. Matthew Choinière officially signed with Grasshopper in Zurich. That's a big loss. I don't care what anybody says. Choinière was a good player in that system and served CF Montreal very, very well. Wasn't getting the reps under Courtois, and I would have thought that more teams in Major League Soccer might have pursued him. but he signed his deal officially with Grasshopper today. So that transfer is officially official. But you got problems in Montreal right now. Big problems. So that is it. You know, you lose Chouanier, because once again, Chouanier wasn't playing. So Matthew Chouanier goes to a club in Switzerland. Okay, cool. So there you go. You lose another piece. But Laurent Courtois obviously comfortable with the pieces that he has. But you lose 5-0 to New England at home. Something ain't right. We'll go over standings in a bit. NYC and Chicago, a 2-2 draw. This one was at Citi Field. I'm glad that somebody knew it was at Citi Field. NYC had a 2-0 lead, by the way. 2 goals in 7 minutes in the first half. Then Kuiper scores in the 78th, and Gutierrez from the spot at 90+4 for your equalizer. So NYCFC had a lead, blew it. Toronto won on the road 1-0. Kansas City put 3 on the purple team at home, meaning at Children's Mercy Park. Remember what we were talking about with Orlando and the slow fade to the postseason? Keep an eye on it. Kansas City had 2 in the back of the net. Then Willie Agata gets a red with 20 to go. And Remy Voltaire scores at 90+2. Anyway, for a 3-0 win. So big win for Kansas City. Austin goes to Geodis. You want to talk about another team with issues? Nashville. Austin 2-0 winners in Nashville over Nashville SC. Goals by John Gallagher in the first half and then Bukhari in the second half. Austin cruised. Got 3 points when they really needed it. San Jose beat Salt Lake. That noise you heard was Jarrett Smith. Espinoza and Pellegrino scored in the first half. 2 on the board, 2-0 at the break. Salt Lake couldn't do anything about it. And the lineup for RSL was first choice. Chicho Arango up top. Diogo Gonçalves, Matt Crooks, Michael Chang, Anelli, Brian Ojeda. Backline of Catranis, Vera, Justin Gladback from injury, and Bodie Hidalgo with Zach McMath in net. With that lineup, you end up not getting any goals on the board against San Jose, the most porous defense in the Western Conference, most porous defense in Major League Soccer. 18 shots, only 4 on target. And so, of course, we're talking about San Jose. And Jarrett Smith joins us. Jarrett, we're going through what happened in Major League Soccer, and literally we were just discussing what was happening with San Jose. And
I thought I felt something in the universe.
Like, yes, you did.
Literally uncomfortably.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, so San Jose gets 2 on the board. Worst defense in Major League Soccer, so you go to RSL and you win 2-0. Make sense of that for me, please.
You can't. You don't bet on MLS. Someone asked me about the Sunday morning pickup. Because usually, like, Sheffield Saturday we were red, and Sheffield Sunday needed subs, so no one died in the heat. The only blue jersey I had was, if you remember this, John, there was like, I guess it was 2019 or 2020.
Yep.
We had a group chat going, watching some late night drunk MLS game, and I mentioned something that, like, San Jose was losing. I was like, they're not going to come back, and if they come back, I'll buy a kit. And then they came back in like 10 minutes. So I still have a San Jose parlay kit, and that's like the only blue kit I have. So I wore that, and someone mentioned, like, I've never seen a San Jose kit. Then I had to explain that the only reason I had it is because I lost a bet, and also because I thought they might be good in 2018, and I could not have possibly been more incorrect. But the thesis here is we don't bet on MLS kids. If you would like to do that, go buy scratch-offs instead.
Yes.
Feels like a better use of your time and money.
Correct.
Even where you think it's a slam dunk, Like, you may have dropped money on LA beat Atlanta this weekend, which would make sense. You had a struggling Atlanta team that was coming off of a long break, just like everyone else was, going to the West Coast, playing a body clock game. Shout out to college football Twitter. College football's back, everybody.
Yes.
All
Yes.
one.
Yes.
Playing a body clock game against the top team in the West, standings-wise. Remember, Atlanta should have had a lead at halftime in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Their own inability to be clinical in moments cost them a lead in that game. And maybe it's a different game in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't Atlanta. The same situation. Like Atlanta went to Miami and dropped a 3-1 nuke on Messi, on a rested Messi and friends.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when like Gonzo's second to last game, when they do that to Miami? That was right after Miami had played in Vancouver in the midweek. They did a brutal trip, but they didn't take all their stars with them to Vancouver.
Yep.
They only took some people, and then they go to Miami, go back home to Miami and play. Like that's the drunkenness that we revel in.
You ain't kidding.
So
And
don't bet on the league.
No. Like I said, I was going through all of the other matches outside of Atlanta and LAG, and I was wondering why Laurent Courtois hadn't been fired on the spot by Joey Saputo after giving up 5 to New England.
Man, Montreal is so damn up and down. Yeah, they're just weird.
Mm-hmm.
They're very schizophrenic and very inconsistent. Sounds like their manager had a small war with Joseph Martinez.
Yeah.
It looks like the hatchet's been buried on.
Sure, one in the back of somebody's head.
Well, it looks like it's been buried for now. Like I think he was back at training. So there's that. Although we're getting to the point now where like I think Joseph needs to be careful. Because you don't really want to keep building that reputation as somebody who's going to ruffle everyone's feathers.
No.
Because when you're not scoring 20 plus goals a season, that doesn't go over nearly as well as it did when you were scoring 20 goals a season. But it sounds like whatever the issue was, it sounds like it's chilled out now. So hopefully he'll get back to playing with them. But yeah, man, like maybe Joey's just trying not to fire a manager instantly this time. I don't know. Never forget that Joey Saputo almost accidentally the best manager in North America. Like, because remember, before Nancy was in Columbus, he was in Montreal and was doing the Lord's work with that Montreal roster.
He was.
Apparently had it up to here with Joey Saputo in Columbus. Columbus asked him to come. He takes the gig. Remember, like they were supposed to have Thierry Henry at one point. Damn.
Yeah.
What a weird timeline we live in. I would like a different one if that's okay. I don't think I have that. I don't think I have a say in that, but I would like a different one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Didn't have 7 on the board involving Dallas and DC. Dallas
had 8 on the board with Portland and St. Louis, man.
Yeah, that's the other game that we haven't had a chance to talk about is Portland and all caps.
Anyway, you're 7.
So you had Bashir score for St. Louis in the 10th. Lewin from the spot makes it 2-0 St. Louis. Rodriguez scores in the 39th, so you're 2-1. Then Tukert scores at 45 plus 2. So St. Louis is up 3-1 at the break. Then Felipe Mora gets a brace in 7 minutes. Squeeze in with that, St. Louis's 4th goal with Thoresen. And so it's 4-3. Mora gets a red at 90 plus 3. There's a goal that goes in. Then it's disallowed. And then Evander scores at 90 plus 9 for 4-4. So you had a double clutch 4-4 on a review. VAR pulls it back. Then at 90 plus 9, Evander scores and you end up with 4-4. So stupid involving Portland and St. Louis.
Yeah, it's kind of like the the clip of the old clip of Randy Orton standing over Kofi, screaming "Stupid Eddie" because Kofi messed up a spot. And then years later, after Kofi had built his career, he did it back to Randy in like kind of like a tongue-in-cheek way. Yeah, it was pretty dumb. It was weird because like it's funny in like that game was already off. The game started off the rails. It never really got on the rails to begin with, so you can't really say it went off the rails. It started off the rails. Like that train started in a ditch. Atlanta and LA was on the rails. In about the 60th minute is when I was wondering, like, this thing, it started to open up. I thought this thing might be weird. Like, Atlanta's had chances. They've wasted them. What if they're able to pull one here?
Right.
Because for a very long stretch, I know we don't like to talk about, like, what might have been sometimes, but for stretches that game felt like Atlanta was more likely to score than LA was.
Yeah.
And it would have been very funny had they done it in the second half, because then you have LA bringing on attacking talent, and just starting to absolutely twist the knife multiple times over.
Yep.
I thought that game was going to open up and get really dumb, and it really didn't. It just turned into LA leading on Atlanta, like a big offensive lineman.
Yes.
But Portland and St. Louis somehow proceeded to keep on getting dumber and dumber. The only thing we were missing was like an own goal in, like, I don't know, the 101st minute.
Yeah. Oh, man. And so you had all of this nutsness, for lack of a better phrase. So the standings right now, across the board, Eastern Conference, Messi and friends have clinched a playoff spot. No surprise. I don't know who did the deal with whatever soccer-based football devil we can talk about, but all the injuries, all of the all the stuff, no Messi for more than a dozen matches. And
hasn't mattered, though, for Miami.
No, he has not. And so Luis Suarez, I'm still waiting for his knee to explode at any given moment. And they're 8 points clear, and they've already clinched a playoff spot in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I mean, they've done such a beautiful job of building that roster. And a lot of it is, well, I know where you're going with this, but when I say that, I mean, like, they have done a nice job of it. They've done a nice job of building it up, of bringing in young players, of making it better and better and better, and supplementing those veterans on the roster.
Yeah,
they've done a really good job, and you got to give them their flowers. Even though I know it's really easy to do like the whole haves versus have-nots kind of thing, and put the tongue firmly in the cheek when you talk about it.
Oh yeah,
but they've went out and they've done what they've been, I guess, allowed to do.
Well,
call it what you will.
And I got into the discussion about what we've seen with Messi and friends too, when they play Atlanta United 2, and the players that were prepared going up, in MLS Next Pro, they were prepared there, and they've stepped into the roles that they were asked to step into by Tata Martino on the first team, and they have acquitted themselves very, very well. I mean, I mentioned Kremoski, I mentioned Sailor, I mentioned Frey, Lawson Sunderland's gotten a cup of coffee. So there are players that we've seen with our coverage of the twos on the network in MLS Next Pro. We've seen them go up against Atlanta United 2, and then they're slotted in to do a specific task by Tata Martino and that staff, and they've acquitted themselves very well in those instances where they have been needed.
It's what you're hoping to see more of from, I think, the Atlanta United Academy, and you've started to see it with guys like Jay Fortune, who have grown into their role that they've been pushed into. Luke Brennan, when he's been called upon, I would like Luke Brennan to be called upon more personally.
Yeah.
That's not my decision. But seeing these guys get called upon and step up is awesome to see. It's why we talk about the twos. It's why we go watch them. It's why we report on them. It's why we talk to Steve Clark.
Yep.
Or Steve Cook, excuse me. Jesus Christ. Steve Clark is still
Steve
managing
Cook.
Too much chagrin.
Yes.
It's why we talk to Steve Cook.
Yep.
It's awesome to see. And yeah, look, the LAs and Miamis and New Yorks of the world are always going to have that extra draw to them to bring in guys like Galaxy bringing in Marco Royce on a TAM deal.
Yeah.
On a bloody TAM deal, man. But they're able to do that because their city has some allure to it. And they're able to pull it off. And don't let that take away from the fact that they built good rosters. They can bring in those guys who don't necessarily have to be the man, but they can help take things over the top.
Yes, and FIFA has released their promo video for the Club World Cup in 2025, and looks like it's 63 matches in 29 days, and you get to figure out how you are getting into said tournament. So there's a promo video out for those of you that are interested in the Club World Cup in next year. Do not be surprised once again if Mercedes-Benz Stadium is a venue attached to the Club World Cup. 30 clubs have made it in so far, 20 different nations in right now. And so, group stage, 8 groups of 4. So 30 of the 32 teams have been decided, trying to figure out who those other 2 are. You get out of the group and then you get into knockouts. And so it's fairly simple. So all the way up to the final, July 13th of 2025 here in the United States. It will be, I will be intrigued to find out the layout of the stadia, who's going to get what, and who's going to go where for the Club World Cup, and what where the final is going to be. Probably wouldn't surprise me if the final was in the Meadowlands again, just because it's New York, unless you have it in Los Angeles or something like that. I think that Mercedes-Benz Stadium gets a deep look in the Club World Cup in 25. So that's your rundown, June and July. And it's going to be in just about a month, June 15 to July 13 of 2025. Those are the dates now that are attached to the Club World Cup. And I'm guessing the venues will be determined fairly soon. But do not be surprised if you have the opportunity to purchase an overpriced ticket or a heavily priced ticket, kind of like Club America style, to go see the Club World Cup downtown. Like I said, I have no intel on that, but I would imagine that if you are a World Cup venue,
when that news does drop, it's going to be at 11:05 right after we go off the air one day.
Absolutely,
but it'll be right after we go off the air.
Yeah, it certainly will. So that would not be a surprise. Michael asking the question: how the Club World Cup affect the MLS schedule, assuming that we get more schedule congestion? Well,
I would imagine. I mean, you could also. Yeah, computers to do schedules nowadays. You could just go on a road trip. You could just load up your schedule with I could see them loading it up in the sense of you have more away games during that stretch.
Yeah.
The question is, are they gonna want to put grass down in 2025?
Right.
And would you do that kind of like a test run for 2026?
And I think that might be the case. I think that you're spot on there. I think that might be accurate. Right now, Seattle is involved as a Club World Cup participant since they won the Triple C, since they were a deep run in the Triple C in 22, since they won it in 22. It's a 4-year cycle of events that gets teams that are outside of the ranking pathway attached to the Club World Cup. So Seattle will be involved in the 2025 World Cup. Let me see if there are any others at present that are attached. At the moment, no, but I think there are 2 other slots that could be attached. So, all right. So it looks to me like we have, all right. So CONMEBOL has a slot. We have 30 of the 32 determined. Seattle right now is the only team that is affected in Major League Soccer. directly having to participate in this tournament. We don't know venues yet. That would be a part of this as well. At the bottom of the qualifications, you have the AFC with 4. The Asian Football Confederation has 4 slots. CAF has 4. The African Federation, they're all locked in. CONCACAF
yeah, to Michael's point, there is also League Cup and US Open Cup. Yeah, it's gonna be
chaos.
Yeah, it's a lot, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be chaos.
You know what would help with this?
Hmm.
Is if the league and the Players Association could come together and have a conversation where academy and second team players could freely move back and forth between the first team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Also, maybe force the hand.
Yeah.
Of force the hand of the NCAA, because the NCAA at this point is basically operating like it's Calvin ball right now.
It is.
But maybe force their hand as well about making sure that players can still keep their college eligibility.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure how much that's going to matter in the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Because of the way that college athletics are changing, and the way non-revenue sports are changing with scholarships and with the amount of money they're going to have to spend, and the way that programs are going to be changing and getting dropped and changing divisions and all that jazz. Because again, you're still in a situation where kids were allowed to play in USL matches for a second team.
Mm-hmm.
Like Will Riley was playing in USL games.
Yep.
But he couldn't play in MLS. He could play in USL, which is a professional league, the second highest league in this country.
Yeah.
Well, I think Nisa still thinks of himself as the second highest league, but come on, let's be serious for a minute here.
Yeah. If Club de Lyon is having problems making ends meet, and Clovers are having problems making ends meet, and Georgia FC is having problems making ends meet, yeah.
But bro, the people who were broadcasting the Georgia FC games quit doing it because Georgia FC and Nisa weren't paying them. They went through a stretch of not getting paid the first place, got paid, kept doing it, and then didn't get paid again and said we're out. Mm-hmm. Everything with Nisa is a joke.
Yeah.
Until proven otherwise, it's a joke.
Yes.
So, but I digress. USL, a very good, talented, fun league.
Mm-hmm.
Even if your second team isn't playing in it, still keep up with it. Still watch it. It's fun.
Yeah.
You had kids playing in that. They're playing against other professionals, and that didn't violate their college eligibility. But if they'd have put on a shirt for Atlanta United, that violated college eligibility, because the NCAA does not make sense. They've replaced their brain and their blood with fermented applesauce. And it's not worth the chalk you would use to write on a board tell them that they suck.
Yeah. The other spots, and Michael was spot on with this. Right now, CONCACAF has 4 spots. They're all locked in. Monterrey, Seattle, León, Pachuca, locked in. CONMEBOL has 6 slots. 5 of them have been decided. The last one goes to the winner of the Copa Libertadores, and that's decided after Thanksgiving. So that's a while. Oceania gets 1 slot. It's locked in. UEFA gets 12 of the slots, and they are all locked in. Chelsea, Real Madrid, Manchester City, Bayern Munich, PSG, Inter Milan, Porto, Benfica, Dortmund, Juve, Atletico Madrid, and Red Bull Salzburg. CONCACAF has, as the host, slot 32, and it is listed as a TBD. Basically, CONCACAF can sit there and say, we'd like to have this particular team in this tournament. Guess who it's going to be? Guess who it's going to be?
Well, what if they get the spot that is not? Yeah. Well, one spot they get a wild card spot on top of the open spot.
No, just
Does
that,
Duke
just the
just that
host.
one spot?
Yeah,
Oh,
just
we
the
already
host.
know who it is then.
Absolutely. It is going to be Messi and friends as the
Yeah, well,
wild card to
People
go in.
like money.
Yeah. So for the Club World Cup in 25, as Lionel Messi's contract has 6 months left on it, all of the Gulfstream Galacticos, do not tell me that another team will be considered in CONCACAF for the wild card slot. This is like the duck, duck, goose slot, and it's going to go to Messi and friends. Slot 32. It is a wild card. CONCACAF, as a host, can determine who they want to put in there. The other 31, they're all locked in because of 4-year cycles and qualifications and things like that. Libertadores is the one that will be decided by a tournament. CONCACAF has a wild card host slot available for slot 32. If it does not go to Messi and friends, I will be stunned.
You could do LAFC or Galaxy.
I mean, true.
You're trying to. It's like you said, and yeah, Michael's right, Messi and friends. It's like you said, John, previously. The League's Cup is a television show.
Yeah, it is.
It is. You know what you do with shows? What are you trying to generate with shows?
Ratings.
Ratings, baby.
Mm-hmm.
This is like the Running Man with somehow a little bit less blood. Not as little blood, like a little more blood than maybe expected, but it's kind of like the Running Man, but with less blood.
So Johnny Infantino's Richard Dawson is what you're saying.
Oh my God. Maybe. Yeah. Just don't put him in the little luge.
Maybe by the end of the tournament if it doesn't go well. By the way, speaking of
League's Cup's final was fun, but like as much fun as I had with League's Cup last year,
yeah,
this one early in the tournament it generated a lot of the drunkenness, and then it just kind of chilled out.
Mm-hmm.
I know there was plenty of push and counter push on League's Cup this year.
Yep.
It needed that drunkenness again to kind of give it the momentum and kind of push start it down the hill, and it didn't have as much of it. You had some fun games, but it still does have a cloud hanging over it that you have to deal with as MLS, and it's going to kind of be a pain to have to deal with for a bit.
Yep. Speaking of our buddy Richard Dawson, our friends at Yosemite Football have come out with another investigative piece. Sam Kunti has the byline to it, and it is titled. Here's your headline: "The Report Infantino Buried." Subheader: Gianni Infantino received the Qatar report in December of 2023, but still hasn't released it. Not even FIFA council members have seen the report. The report in question is the long-awaited Qatar report from the advisory firm Human Level. March of 24, FIFA told several stakeholders that the Qatar report would be made public in April, but 20 months after the World Cup, the report remains, this is Sam's words, the report remains buried in the highest echelons of FIFA's fortress in Zurich. Not even the members of the FIFA Council have seen or read the long-awaited report. In Qatar, migrant workers are still enduring repressive labor conditions. Earlier this month, one from Kenya, a security guard at Al Nasser Star Security Services, went on strike with dozens and dozens of coworkers because his salary had not been paid. Gianni Infantino's promise at last year's FIFA Congress in Rwanda, he said on the stage, "I don't like to speak about myself normally, but sometimes maybe you have to because I'm the president and have to take some responsibility. So what did I promise you? Well, I promised you, and very few believed it, that we would experience the best World Cup ever. We delivered. We organized the best World Cup ever." He went on to discuss it. Excellent stadiums, perfect infrastructure, no incidents, zero incidents. Took on board the responsibility to deal with human rights matters and to deal with the legacy of the World Cup, the first in the Middle East. Shukran, Qatar. Zero incidents, Kuti continues. Zero incidents in our responsibility to deal with human rights matters were bold statements by the FIFA president when hundreds of thousands of migrant workers suffered working and living in slave-like conditions. He goes on to reference the Amnesty International report. So the report that was put together about human rights issues and the Qatari World Cup apparently has not been seen by anyone at the highest levels of FIFA. So, tongue-in-cheek comment, color me surprised there.
What do you think we get first, that report or the full extent and details out of the Michigan situation with Michigan football? What do you think first?
It's got to be the Michigan situation, because someone is going to want it exposed. And Connor Stallions, of course, has said, I ain't done nothing wrong. And of course you haven't. Sure. Of course, the line blurs and moves from one side to the other repeatedly on a daily basis, so anything is possible. James Benke reporting Mikel Merino has signed for Arsenal a 4-year deal with a 12-month option. Let's see. And I'm trying to see what else is out there. Nico Segur and Stephen Afrifa are both headed to Canada men's national team camp for the first time. So as Canada goes up against the 2026 hosts, they have announced their roster for the friendlies against U.S. and Mexico. Adekubi, Afrifa, Ali Ahmed, Theo Baer, Moise Bombito, Chouanier. So he signs with Grasshopper and Zurich, and oh, by the way, you got to come back and do national team duty. Cornelius, Max Crepeau, Jonathan David, Alfonso Davies. So this is a high-flying roster. Eustachio, Alistair Johnston, Kyle Laren, Richie Larea, who will be falling down like the best of them, Liam Millar, Kamal Miller, Tani Oluwaseyi, Jonathan Osorio, Schaffelberg, Nico Seger, Sirwa, Dane St. Clair, and Joel Waterman. So Canada ain't messing around with these two friendlies coming up in September. And we'll have our buddy Christian Jack on before the matchup involving the U.S. and Canada. So Canada announces their lineup, and it's fairly first choice. I mean, they're not really messing around with these friendlies. So they've got their lineup out. The U.S. men's national team does not have theirs out at present. So, interesting that Canada's going with the friendly on first choice. So, getting warm under Jesse Marsh, and you're going to do things that way. So, not really a surprise. What to watch? Where to watch it? It's a busy day, because if you've got Paramount Plus, by the way, you're going to have a fun afternoon going from one place to the other. Gummy Bear Cup at 3 o'clock on CBS Sports Network, Birmingham City and Fulham. FS2 has the league that we neither condone and endorse nor promote at 2 o'clock. Can Champ doubleheader. We'll see if any drones are around at BMO Field in Toronto. Looking at Forge. That's at 7. Vancouver and Pacific at 10:30. Fox Deportes simulcasting the league that we neither condone, endorse, nor report on or promote at 2 o'clock. Open Cup semi at 8 on Season Pass on Apple TV, Sporting Kansas City and Indy 11. ESPN Plus has the Pokal at 2:30. La Liga doubleheader at 1 and 3:30. Mallorca, Sevilla, Rayo Vallecano, and Barca. Fox Soccer Plus has Central American Cup at 8. Golasso Network has Gummy Bear Cup at 3 with Crystal Palace and Norwich City. Champions League qualifiers on Paramount Plus. Galatasaray Young Boys, Salzburg Dynamo Kyiv, Sparta Prague, and Malmo all at 3. Gummy Bear Cup all at 2:45. Brighton and Hove Albion versus Crawley Town, Everton, Doncaster Rovers. I should have worn my Doncaster Rovers gear today. And Leicester and Tranmere at 2:45. So it is a busy day, especially for those of you that have Paramount Plus, where you can go back and forth and watch Golasso Network and watch Paramount Plus and all of the things, and be prepared for all of the Gummy Bear Cup trivia that we have tomorrow. Quick note, Vancouver Rise is the name of the Northern Super League franchise, the women's league that is being unveiled in Canada. They had a big to-do yesterday, so it is Vancouver Rise FC now as the Northern Super League team that now has a name. And so that is the first team, I believe. So 6 founding members: Vancouver, Calgary, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, Halifax. And so this is now the 4th with a name: Ottawa Rapid, Halifax Tides, Calgary Wild, and now Vancouver Rise. They're going to play at BC Place, and you could have capacity if you open up the upper tank to 55,000. So congratulations to Vancouver, the 4th team with a name now in the Northern Super League. What else is on your mind this morning since you came in late?
Oh, not a lot. It's got Midweek action, I'm sure, all over the place. Champions League will be really kicking up its stupidity in the European side of things soon, and then the MLS getting back into the flow of things after League's Cup. It just kind of feels like you're taking a break from conditioning, and now you have to start running again.
You're not kidding. Tomorrow, Tyler joins us at 9:15, as he always does. Like I said, we'll see if we can catch up with the busiest man in the Northeast, Dylan Butler, at 10. Marion Crowder hopping on at 10:30, and she will be on to discuss SEC soccer and the USL Super League. So a very, very busy Wednesday as well. Once again, remember, pregame for Atlanta United 2, Carolina Core, tomorrow night at 7 on the network. Carolina Core hosting at Truist Point. Kickoff a little after 7:30. Big matchup for teams that have matches in hand, chasing the 8th spot and chasing to get into the playoffs in the Eastern Conference and MLS Next Pro. Big matchup for both, and thanks to head coach Roy Lassiter for hanging out with Maddie to discuss how things have grown with Core so far this season. And what's this with Ryan Gauld now?
He's been called into Scotland's national team for the whatever the European equivalent of the Gummy Bear Cup thing is.
Okay.
The League of Nations Cup.
Uh-huh.
Whatever. I do not trust Steve Clark to play him.
Yeah, I ain't trusting him to do much of nothing. So
he should have been called in for the Euros. Like, you should have had him and Lewis Morgan Lewis Morgan didn't play till like the very end.
And that pissed me off.
Kevin Nisbet didn't play until the very end after having an outstanding season. Lawrence Shanklin was called in after winning the Golden Boot in Scotland and didn't play, so Che Adams could just run around the field and do really nothing.
Yes.
It's kind of a weird thing, and that Scotland's in a weird place where you have your established guys who are still very good and in their prime, but the guys who aren't those established written in pen guys,
yeah,
you need to start figuring out if they're the kind of guys that need to be written in pen or need to be written in pencil. And the striker side of it needs to be written in pencil. They didn't really have a plan when Lyndon Dykes wasn't available. And then on the right wing, it was just kind of hit and miss. You have 86-year-old James Forrest, who's still an option. But you also had Lewis Morgan, who's been doing Lord's work over here in MLS. You had Ryan Gauld, you had Lawrence Shanklin, you had options. They called in Gauld. I'm excited for him. I hope he gets minutes.
Other quick news, Forrest's £29 million move for Santi Jimenez is off after the striker has rejected the offer. And in the championship, Cardiff questions security after one of their players cuts his leg as an advertising board collapsed against your Welsh rivals in Swansea. And that came 24 hours after a ball boy was trapped under hoardings when West Ham beat Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park. So Cardiff City is questioning security arrangements at Swansea City after Ollie Tanner suffered a cut leg when an advertising board fell on him when the team was celebrating in the end zone after they scored in the Wales derby. So the first team coach at Cardiff is looking for more security. Fans can't come toward the advertising signs. Heavy sign fell down. Ollie's got a big cut on his leg. Really? And that cut was about 8 inches long. So so now you have players who are concerned about having advertising boards falling on their legs, and you have other concerns about advertising hoardings as we go forward. So keep an eye on that. That was rather interesting to see that, where now you're wondering about advertising hoardings and making sure that they stay upright so people don't get hurt, all those kinds of things. So it's pretty wild. All right. So Jarrett, since you are here and we have the fourth held up the board and we just basically ignored the hell out of him, go ahead and whistle us out. We'll be back here in a little less than 22. We'll be discussing a lot of stuff. Tyler Pilgrim joining us at 9:15 in the morning. Hit it.